Thank you very much to all the panelists for their excellent presentations. We are running short on time, so I think we'll go straight into Q&As. I think shipping is a really lagging industry. It really takes regulation to make owners sit up and pay attention. So something like digitalization, the whole AI regime, are we moving fast enough? Are we at the right place in line with the regulatory regimes at the moment? Can I invite either Khalil, Barry, or Jamil to offer some remarks, some comments?
I can happy to kick off. I mean, in terms of pace, I think the industry is going as fast as they can now. Particularly for EU ETS now, with that huge commercial implications, it's top of mind for the CEO and the board now in how to deal with that, and so that is massively driving digitalization and all of the software vendors that are out there to respond to it. Biofuel reporting is another big sort of industry change that all software vendors are having to be ready for. I see a almost sort of frantic drive from the software vendors globally to be supporting clients through this big change. And so it's really now the industry is moving as quick as they can. But I guess that there are, of course, some companies that are still looking and waiting to really see what some of the bigger players are doing before they decide exactly which way to go.
If you allow me to comment, often the shipping industry looks very much to be dragging their feet when it comes to innovation, and I think the reason for that, maybe digitalization is and AI is a bit different, but when it comes to many aspects of shipping and innovation in shipping, I think what's holding shipping back is that the perceived risks of change are, above the let's say risk tolerance of most, because in shipping, tried and test, everybody wants to go for tried and tested, technology, which is the opposite of innovation, right? And small example, if you build a vessel, and if you deviate from the standard design, which is tried and tested, or deviate from the technologies which are tried and tested, and something was to go wrong, having that vessel out, the downtime that is not covered in the normal shipbuilding contract is a risk which is like, let's say, a nightmare scenario for a ship owner. Therefore, the safest bet is to stay with the tried and tested technology. So I think that's what's holding shipping back from, going for the innovation. Digitalization being maybe a slightly different concept to the major propulsion technologies and alternative fuels.
It's interesting because we see it happening in other industries quite fast. We see it in banking, we see it in supply chains, and in some respect, the shipping industry is still operating in, some would say, the darker ages. Still with paper bills of lading, and there's been always drive to push shipping in the wider sense into a more modern era, and it's great to see DNV, Veritas, BV, Mariaps come up with solutions and platforms that encourage and to drive this forward. Where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think that there will be a noticeable change, or will we be here in 5, 10 years still with paper bills of lading, still with inconsistent data. I don't know how ship owners keep their data, but if they record their journeys from A to B and they say 12 knots, distance of X kilometers, how will we still be facing the same issues in 5 or 10 years?
I can answer this question. I think shipping has traditionally been, as all of the panelists agreed, has been a quite slow industry in terms of adopting technology. It's not a technology-first industry that we are the first to adopt every new technology out there. But that's changing now significantly, because the last 20 to 25 years, what we have done on the shipping side is to digitize, not digitalize. There's a big difference between digitize and digitalize, where we have converted everything from paper to systems. Now, the next 20 years is all about digitalize to automate, and we are already in the verge of moving on from digitalized outputs to creating more of autonomous and automated way of working. So shipping has been catching up. If you look at a lot of industries today, they are partnering with shipping on terms of digitalization. I'll give you a couple of examples. A week back, there was a news where CMA CGM has partnered with Google. So these are pretty different times. CMA as a container company partnering with somebody like Google on the AI front is quite a different change of how shipping has been traditionally pursuing digitalization. If you see Maersk, they have a huge partnership with Microsoft. If you look at the tech startups that have come in the last few years that are working on digitalization, everybody has an Amazon or a Microsoft or a Google, which are leading technology innovative companies partnering on the maritime side. That means that shipping is not left behind, and we are still running the same pace as other industries. But that being said, the next 10 years, for answering your question, it's going to be quite important for shipping. And this is where we fight between adopting modern systems, keeping the industry still attractive for seafarers, because it's a human industry. We still have to keep up seafarers. We've got about 1 million seafarers out there, so people should be proud to work in the industry. People cannot be replaced with AI bots. So it's going to be quite a challenge for us to see how we adopt digitalization and still keep the industry attractive.
Thank you. Captain?
Tien, I have a different take on this, controversially so. Our team goes on board at least 6 different ships every day. So I'm talking about purely on-ground information that we get on a daily basis, including myself every now and then. I can tell you it is the same old shipping industry on ground at the moment. Yes, there is a different language that the shore-based managers and the A-tier operators are talking about, like our fellow panelists mentioned, but that's only the top tier. If you get beyond the top tier, 90% of the shipping industry is still lumbering and is not moving fast enough with the change that the technology, the understanding of technology demands. So on ground, the average sailor is still moving at his own comfortable pace. This is ground reality which we see by boarding ships on day-to-day basis. Of course, there are exceptions. The other day, when I went in for an audit, the second officer had his own personal Starlink connection to data directly to his house, doing what he wanted. He was not relying on anyone. It was that cheap, and I think that's going to become the future of how technology is going to be adopted. It's going to be the fast movers who are going to take initiatives like these, and then there are going to be those who are going to be, the majority of them, going to be lumbering behind and taking it easy, like we've seen most of the years that we've been sailing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right. So, Mark, talk to me about the new maritime law. If here in the UAE, we want to become a maritime hub, a hub that rivals the Singapores, the Rotterdams of this world, the Shanghais. How can the new maritime law incentivize owners to relocate in the UAE? Does it incentivize owners to relocate in the UAE? Is it enough? And of course, we all know that if owners come to the UAE, the support systems, the insurance, the lawyers, the ship managers, they all follow. They follow the owners. Does the new UAE maritime law promote that?
I think it provides a framework, a more modern framework than the previous law did. It brings the UAE in line with a lot of international norms. But I don't think on its own it's going to make the UAE overnight something that rivals Singapore, rivals other countries that are leading maritime hubs in that kind of sense. But you can see it's also paired with lots of government action that's being taken in this area. There's a real push in, for example, the ADGM to be a kind of leading area for ship managers to register. There are various other things taking place in the UAE to really try to entice people over here to set up their operations here and run their businesses from here. And from what I can see, that does seem to be having quite a significant effect. I think I saw the West of England have recently opened up an office here. You do have a number of maritime law firms who are based out here. So I do think the industry itself is growing here, and you can see that growth feeding through into different bits of the sector. Like I say, the maritime law, I think, is a necessary part of putting the framework in place, but in of itself, I don't think it'll be the key driver.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Faidon, in your role as an S&P broker, what are you seeing now in terms of tanker rates and tanker asset values? It's a difficult question because I'm talking about tankers in the widest sense, and I'm not drilling down into any specific segments. We're approaching the end of the year. What's your outlook for the next 6 months, for example? Do we have reason to be optimistic? And if we come to the tanker conference this time next year, what's your take?
Tien, I mean, if I could answer 100% guaranteed your question, I would not be here. I would be probably in Hawaii enjoying my money, correct? I think, in all honesty, that the party that was happening in the tanker sector for the past 3 years, I would not say it's over, but it's not as big as it used to be. Of course, we're in the middle. I mean, if you asked me 2 days back, I would have a different answer. Today, I have a different answer again. I think overall, what we have seen in the market the past 2 to 3 months is that the medium sizes, the clean side has been hit. We have identified probably a 2 million deduction prices of between ask and bid. So we can see that the smaller sizes, the clean vessels, have actually started softening in terms of prices. And this also is attributed to the MR rates coming down and so on and so forth. Still, the seasonal factor has not kicked in my opinion. Going forward now, if I have to be bullish on one sector, I would be on the crude carriers, especially on the bigger ones. I think this is attributed to the President-elect's actual policy that he will implement, drill baby drill, where he's expecting that the net exporting capacity of US crude will increase substantially. This means that we will have shifting patterns. That means also that the 2 crude terminals in US that will be operating will handle directly VLCCs. So these vessels like Afras and Suezmax that were used for lightering will not be needed anymore, so they will need to find other cargoes. So if I have to bet, let's say reasonably, not very, very bullishly, I would say VLs, there is an upside. That's what I expect. On the cleaner side, I think that it's just an oversupply sector right now, very overordered, and also the refining capacity has increased and the longer hauls have been cut down.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, Chris, you had a remark?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the current asset prices, inflation adjusted, we're now back to 2008, and that's quite worrying because when you look, and that's not just tankers, that's actually all segments, but specifically if you look at product tankers, MR-LR1, LR2, the order book is now getting longer. The shipyards are full, which means that new build prices won't change for at least a year or two until the shipyards don't get orders. but the shipyards keep filling up with other types of assets, such as container ships. But second-hand prices, as Fiden just said, they have dropped quite a bit, at least 10% in the last couple of weeks. And well, from my perspective, looking to potentially enter the market to buy, we're hoping and we believe that the market will come down a lot further over the next 6 months.
And that's actually quite interesting. And if we believe or rely on the analyst reports that oil demand will plateau in 2030, and I think there are a few reports saying that, and then from 2030 there'll be a long-term structural decline. I'm interested in the motivation of obviously entering into the tanker market. Do we have a contrary view and we believe that the energy transition will just take longer?
Well, I think it depends on what ships are being built, because again, we have the whole issue with the older fleet, the grey fleet, which again needs to be scrapped. So if all of those vessels are taken out of the market and scrapped, then there is room for new buildings in the dual fuel space and the cleaner technologies. So there is room for additional vessels, but it's depending on what type. The older vessels have just not left the fleet recently.
If I can add to what Chris said, Tien, in my opinion, we're just into this, let's say, period of time that we really don't know what's going to happen. So all this fuel, like methanol, ammonia, and so on and so forth, they're transitional fuels, in our opinion. If you ask me to future-proof my guess, I would say that probably in 30 years, maybe nuclear is the best form of energy. But just betting on it right now, it's not something you want to do. So end of the day, I think that the standard fuel, the fossil fuel, the VLSFO, MGO, yes, they will be there. So there will be, let's say, the standard dish for the next 10 to 15 years. I think that the industry will mainly focus towards optimizing the speed of consumption and finding other ways, probably carbon capture at some point. But I think that's the case. All the rest is just betting on a horse that you don't know if it's going to win 100% or 50% even.
And if I can come back in as well, if we talk about all the transition fuels, new fuels, but if we actually look at the industry, in the last 10 years, we have actually reduced on conventional ships fuel consumption by 30%. If you ordered an MR tanker prior to 2014, it was burning in the high 20 tons per day. You order a conventional MR today, it's burning less than 20. So as an industry, the improvements in ship design, the paints that are on the ship and everything else, we have actually already reduced fuel consumption by a third. So I don't think people actually recognise that as much as they should.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the remarks. Can I open the questions to the floor? Anybody?
Thank you. My name is Octavio Palm from Panama Flag. I have many questions, but I would like to start with the Captain Irani. Can you please tell us the remote survey for sure will be alive, and somebody have to manage the, somebody have to be on board, right? From the company which is making the remote survey. What about the internet? What about the connection? If you have any problems, is the vessel have to provide the internet? Is the port? How do you deal with this?
Thank you very much, Octavio. It's a very relevant question. First of all, there's no internet connection required for this. The data that the drone captures is saved on the handheld device of the person who is operating the drone that goes inside the tank. And on site, there has to be a classification surveyor who is actually seeing and directing the guide. He may or may not be a drone operator, but he is looking at the screen on site there and then. Okay. There is a peer reference and somebody ashore later on with that data, because those files are going to be huge. There is no way those connections are going to be transmitted live. So the inspection is done on board itself, but not by entering the tank. And second option of reviewing that data by a buddy once that data comes ashore is also a possibility, because it is now all captured and saved. But no, there is no live internet connection required. It's all done by the drone talking to the screen on a deck somewhere.
this information is going directly to the ship owner, or you can share with the classification society or the flag also?
Whoever pays for it.
Okay, okay. I have another questions, very fast, regarding the Hong Kong Convention. What is the objective to not allow the European Union flag vessels to be scrapped or recycled in non-European ports or yards? What is the objective?
Can you repeat? What is the objective of recycling?
What is the objective to do not allow European flag vessels to be recycled in non-European ports? I mean, out of Europe.
Well, opinions vary. I'll tell you my personal opinion. I think that there is some form of protectionism, and there is simply no reason to have any vessel, irrespective of flag or last port of call, not being recycled as per HKC in an HKC-approved yard. This is my opinion, and I don't think it will change anytime soon.
Can the vessel change the flag, for example, for a single voyage to the yard, if it's the European registered already?
It is the right of every owner to change the flag of the vessel upon taking over, or even when the vessel is under his ownership, he can change the flag anytime.
Okay.
Correct? Now the question is, if you're going to be criminally prosecuted by European Union authorities, if you are doing it for the purpose of recycling. This is an answer that probably the European Union Committee can give.
Thank you. In this case, what is the time limit that the ship owner can change the flag before he go to the yard, to the recycling?
I don't think, because this goes, we have seen examples of, let's say, Netherlands, of criminal prosecution. We have seen other jurisdictions and so on and so forth. This is something that I cannot advise you simply because I'm not in the mindset of the authorities if they consider 1 year or 3 years or 6 months as a relatively, let's say, fair time to have the flag changed prior you go for recycling.
Okay.
In theory, though, they will need to try and establish when the decision for recycling was actually, let's say, decided.
The IHM, International Hong Kong Convention certificate, is not a certificate, it's a statement of compliance, but it's, in this moment is linked with the safety construction validity, right? After the entrance of the in force of the convention will be linked with what certificate? The Hong Kong statement of compliance.
So the statement?
Faidon, let's continue this outside maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sir, can we continue this outside?
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Thank
Deepak,
you.
I don't know if you had one quick question or a remark, and then we have to wrap up because I think we're all a little bit thirsty. Sir, I think Deepak, and then we have to wrap up. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Deepak from DK2. Quick one for you, Mark. The changes in the UAE flag. As an ex-banker, banks were struggling with accepting UAE flag as a mortgage. With the changes, are you seeing more interest in terms of funders funding under UAE flag?
So you were saying that previously there was a skepticism.
Oh yeah, there was very little
because of the difficulties in
of enforcement.
Mortgage.
That's right.
There have been some changes to the mortgage registration process in the maritime law. So I think the process is simple, and so hopefully it will encourage banks to do so. I suppose the changes obviously will make things easier and better regulated, I think, under the maritime law. So that might encourage people. But I'm not sure the changes are sufficient for the UAE to start being a kind of flag of convenience that people will be flocking to and that kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, but I think overall there are some positive changes there. But, yeah, I'd be surprised if they change the balance that much.
Yeah, I think it's still a little bit too early to tell. A lot of the UAE owners that we deal with, they actually like to flag in Panama, Marshall Islands, Liberia, all of whom have representative offices in Dubai. Things might change. I think it's still a little bit too early to tell. So watch this space and ask this question this time next year. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for staying with us until the very end. Thank you for warm regards to our panelists. Thank you very, very much. Ammar has mentioned that there are drinks outside, so please join us for drinks and we can continue the discussion with Faidon, I'm sure, outside. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.